You know what is genuinely fascinating about blackouts? Most people do perfectly fine for the first 12 hours. It almost feels like an adventure at the start. You light some candles, you eat whatever happens to be accessible in the fridge, and maybe you even enjoy the sudden quiet that descends on your home. It's a break from the constant hum of technology and the endless notifications. It feels almost novel, like camping in your living room. But then the morning comes. The house is significantly colder than it was when you went to sleep. The coffee maker is a lifeless plastic brick on the counter. Your phone battery is sitting at 40%, and you realize you have already checked it 20 times since you woke up, hoping for a signal or a notification that power has been restored. That is when the novelty evaporates and the actual decisions start. That is the precise moment where most people stumble. I've been thinking about preparedness for a long time, specifically focusing on the psychology of emergency situations since 2012. One crucial thing I have learned is that power outages do not break people during the crisis moment. They break people during the boring, uncomfortable middle part. They break you when you are tired, cold, and trying to figure out what to eat without dirtying dishes you cannot wash, or debating whether you should flush the toilet again. This is not about surviving some total grid-down collapse or the end of the world. This is about the winter storm that hits your neighborhood and knocks out a substation, or the transformer fire 3 blocks over, or the scheduled rolling blackout that somehow lasts 3 days instead of 3 hours. These are real situations happening to normal homes and regular people who just need a clear, actionable plan. Let us talk about what actually happens after that first day ends and the reality sets in. The first major mistake people make involves burning through their phone battery. It happens almost immediately. When the lights go out, the instinct is to reach for the phone. People keep their screens on full brightness, scrolling through social media, checking the local outage map every 10 minutes, and texting friends to see if they have power. They watch their battery percentages drop and don't think much of it until it's too late. By hour 18, they are sitting at 15% and starting to panic because now the phone is no longer an entertainment device. It has become their alarm clock, their flashlight, their only connection to emergency services, and their link to information if something actually matters. The shift that needs to happen is treating your phone like a limited, non-renewable resource from minute one. This doesn't mean you have to do some extreme digital detox, but you have to decide what that device is actually for during an outage. If you have portable power banks, that's excellent. However, you should charge your phone once when it hits 20%, not whenever you feel like topping it off. If you do not have a power bank, your phone might need to last 2 full days on a single charge. That reality changes how you use it. You need to turn the brightness down, way down, to the lowest visible setting. You need to put it in low power mode immediately. Turn off Wi-Fi and Bluetooth if they are just searching for networks and devices that do not exist or have no power. Stop checking the outage map repeatedly. It will say the same thing it said an hour ago, and refreshing that page burns data and battery life. The mistake isn't using your phone. The mistake is using it unconsciously in the exact same way you do when the power is on. If you live in an apartment, you probably have one reliable outlet, and that is in your car. That is your backup generator, but only if you are smart about it. You should not be sitting in the driveway running the engine for an hour just to charge your phone to 100%. That's expensive in terms of fuel, it's bad for your car to idle that long, and it looks strange to your neighbors who might think you're leaving. 15 minutes gets you enough charge to make a call or check the news. That is the move if you actually need it. Conserving that battery alleviates a massive amount of anxiety on day 2. Mistake number 2 is the water issue, which everyone forgets until it's a problem. Water is one of those things people mention constantly in preparedness conversations, but almost nobody thinks clearly about the mechanics of it. If you have city water, you'll probably still have water pressure during a blackout. Most municipal systems have backup generators or massive gravity-fed tanks that keep the pressure going even when the grid is down. Your toilet works, your sink works, and you're generally fine. But if you're on a well, the pump stops the second the power cuts. No electricity means no water, period. And if you did not know that before the outage, you certainly know it now, standing there at the sink with a dry toothbrush in your hand. This is where people make the classic day 2 mistake. They assume they will ration the single gallon of water they filled up in a panic when the lights flickered. Then they brush their teeth, rinse a dish, wash their hands twice, and suddenly that gallon is gone. A gallon of water per person per day is the standard recommendation, but that is strictly for drinking and keeping your body hydrated. It does not cover washing, cooking, cleaning, or flushing. If you are trying to stay comfortable and semi-functional for 72 hours, you need more than 3 gallons. However, you do not need to store 20 gallons in your apartment like you are preparing for a medieval siege. You just need enough to get through the gap before you adjust your behavior. If you are on a well, fill your bathtub when you first suspect you might lose power, or the moment it goes out if you have residual pressure. That water is gray water, specifically for flushing the toilet. Fill a couple of large pots or pitchers. That is your cooking and hand washing water. Keep the bottled drinking water separate and treat it differently. If you did not do that at the start and now it's day 2, you are trying to solve a problem that is already harder than it needed to be. You can still fix it, but it costs you time, money, or a trip to the store that might not have bottled water left on the shelves. Furthermore, if you have a baby or a pet, your water math just changed drastically. A large dog drinks a lot of water, and formula requires clean water. A lot of people forget that until they are halfway through day 1 and realize they're splitting their supply 3 ways. Mistake number 3 is that food is weirder and more complicated than you think. The fridge is fine for a while. If you do not open it, it will hold its temperature for about 4 hours. The freezer is good for a day, maybe 2 if it is packed full and you really leave it alone. But people do not leave it alone. They check it. They open the door to grab a drink, stare at the contents, debating what to eat, and look around. Every time that door opens, you are losing precious cold air. Day 2 is when the fridge contents start becoming a gamble. The milk is questionable. The leftovers have been sitting at 50 degrees for 16 hours. That raw chicken breast probably needs to get cooked immediately or tossed in the trash. This is where people make the strange mistake of trying to eat normally. They pull out ingredients that need preparation and cooking and cleaning, and then they realize they do not actually have a way to do any of that efficiently. If you have a camp stove, you're in good shape. If you do not, you are eating crackers and peanut butter, or going full chaos mode and trying to grill hamburger meat on a cookie sheet over a candle, which is dangerous and ineffective. The smarter play is to think in terms of meals that do not require much effort or cleanup. Canned soup that you can heat in one pot is excellent. Bread and deli meat that is still cold enough to trust works well for the first day. Pasta is an option if you have a way to boil water and you are not wasting too much fuel. People always say you should just eat the freezer food first, which makes sense theoretically, until you are trying to cook a half-thawed frozen pizza with no oven and no microwave. Then you are just staring at a soggy crust, wondering what the plan was. If you are in an apartment, you probably do not have a grill on a balcony. Even if you do, grilling in the winter when it's 20 degrees outside stops being fun after exactly 1 meal. So your realistic options are a portable butane stove, a camp stove you can use carefully indoors with a window cracked, or cold food. I'm not saying you need to buy a stove right this second. I'm saying that if you do not have one, your food options narrow significantly, and day 2 is when you really feel that limitation. A lot of people are fine the first few hours. The real mistakes and the real hunger happen on day 2 and 3. Mistake number 4 is the cold problem. If you lose power in the summer, you are uncomfortable and sweaty. If you lose power in the winter, you are cold. And cold is the thing that makes people do dumb, dangerous things. People layer up, which is smart. Then they layer up more. Then they realize they are wearing 2 hoodies and a blanket and they are still cold, and it has only been 1 day. The issue is that heat leaves your home faster than you expect. Your apartment or house is likely not insulated as well as you think. It has thin walls, big windows, and probably a sliding glass door. You are losing heat to the unit below you, the unit next to you, and the outside world.
If it is 15 degrees outside, your apartment is dropping a couple of degrees every single hour.
By day 2, you are looking at an indoor temperature in the low 50s if you have done nothing to stop the heat loss. That is cold enough to be miserable. That is cold enough that you start thinking about bad ideas. The bad idea people try first is bringing a grill inside. Do not do that. Carbon monoxide kills people every single winter during blackouts. It does not smell. It does not give you a warning. You just get tired, feel a little confused, go to sleep, and you do not wake up. The other bad idea is running a generator in the garage or on a balcony right next to a window. The same issue applies. Carbon monoxide comes inside and people die. If you have a working fireplace, use it. If you do not, your best options are layering properly, insulating one room, and accepting that it is going to be cold. Insulating one room means closing off doors to bedrooms you are not using, hanging blankets over windows to stop drafts, and keeping everyone in the same space. Body heat matters. It means you are living in your bedroom or your living room for 2 days instead of moving around the whole apartment. It's not fun, but it works. You can keep one room livable a lot easier than you can heat an entire apartment with no power. Sleeping bags help immensely. Wool blankets help. Hats help more than people think because you lose a significant amount of heat through your head. If you are cold enough that you are layering everything you own, put on a beanie. The thing people forget is that the cold makes everything else harder. You do not want to get up to use the bathroom because it's freezing. You do not want to deal with food prep. You just want to sit under a blanket and wait for the power to come back. That is fine for a few hours. It is not fine for 3 days. Mistake number 5 is boredom. Boredom is a real, tangible problem. This sounds trivial until you are living it. No television, no internet. Your phone is in low power mode, so you are not scrolling social media. It's 6 in the evening, pitch black outside, and you have absolutely nothing to do. People underestimate how much of their daily routine depends on electricity. You cannot watch a show to unwind. You cannot cook a real meal as a distraction. You cannot clean efficiently because there is no hot water and limited light. So you sit there and you get bored. And boredom makes people irritable, anxious, and weird. If you have kids, this becomes a much bigger problem. Kids do not do well with unstructured nothingness, especially if they are cold and their normal distractions are gone. Books help, card games help, actual conversations help, which sounds old-fashioned, but it's real. People forget how to be in a room together without a screen involved. If you have a battery-powered radio, that is something valuable. It gives you information, maybe some music, and a sense of connection to the outside world. It's not exciting, but it fills the silence. The day 2 slump is real. The novelty of the blackout is gone. You are not in crisis mode anymore. You are just uncomfortable and waiting. That is when people start making poor decisions out of frustration. They drive somewhere dangerous just to charge a phone or get coffee or feel normal for 20 minutes. They spend money they did not need to spend. They use resources they were trying to conserve. It's not logical, it's just human. The way to avoid that is knowing it's coming and having a plan for it. Decide in advance what you are going to do when you are bored. Have a book you've been meaning to read. Have a deck of cards. Have a plan to go to bed early because there's nothing else to do and sleep is free. Mistake number 6 is regarding the toilet. This is the thing nobody wants to talk about, but everybody wonders about. If you have city water and the power is out, your toilet still works. You flush it the same way you always do. The water comes from the tank on the back, and that tank refills from the pipes, and the pipes still have pressure. You're fine. If you are on a well, you have no water pressure, which means the tank does not refill. You get exactly 1 flush. After that, you are manually refilling the tank with stored water, or you're using the bucket method. The bucket method involves pouring a gallon of water directly into the bowl fast enough to trigger the flush mechanism physically. It works. It's not elegant, but it works. Here's the day 2 issue. People start getting conservative with flushing. They decide they will only flush for solids. Then they realize that's kind of gross and smells bad. Then they're annoyed with themselves for wasting precious water on a flush they said they wouldn't do. The mental game around this gets weird fast. It's one of those small discomforts that builds over time. If you filled your bathtub at the start, like I mentioned earlier, you have gray water specifically for flushing and you are not stressed about it.
If you did not, you are now trying to ration expensive bottled water for something you did not think you would need to ration for. The other thing people do not consider is trash. If you are using paper plates to avoid washing dishes, or you are tossing food that went bad, your trash situation escalates. And if it is winter and your heat is out, you cannot just leave a bag of trash outside your apartment door for 3 days. It is going to smell. Your neighbors will be unhappy. Small things compound. That is the theme of day 2. Mistake number 7 is light management. Flashlights and candles seem obvious until you are trying to actually live with them for 72 hours. Candles give you light, but not much. They are ambient. They're enough to see the shapes in the room, but not enough to read comfortably or cook safely. And they are a massive fire risk if you are not paying attention. People get comfortable with candles and forget they are burning. They leave them on a bookshelf or near a curtain. They fall asleep with one still flickering on the nightstand. Apartment fires during blackouts are more common than they should be. Flashlights are better for task lighting, but batteries drain. If you are using a flashlight to cook, to navigate the apartment, to read, to find things in closets, you are burning through power. Headlamps are underrated. With a headlamp, you have both hands free. You have light pointing wherever you are looking. They feel a little goofy at first, but functionally, they are infinitely better than holding a flashlight in your teeth or balancing one on a counter and hoping it does not roll off. The day 2 mistake is running out of batteries because you did not think about how much you were using, or realizing all your stored batteries are dead and you do not have spares. If you have rechargeable lights or a lantern with a USB charge, those are great as long as you still have power bank juice to refill them. If you do not, you are back to candles and hoping you don't knock one over. Daylight matters more than you think. When the sun is up, do the things that need good light. Eat, organize, and prep for the evening. When it gets dark at 5 in the afternoon and you have 14 hours of night ahead of you, you are going to want a plan that is not just sitting in the dark. Mistake number 8 is waiting for updates. People obsess over outage maps and utility company updates. They refresh the page, they call the hotline, they check social media to see if neighbors have power back. It does not help. You are not getting new information every 10 minutes. You are just making yourself anxious. The utility company's estimate says power will be restored by 11 at night, then 11 comes and it updates to restored by 6 in the morning, then 6 becomes crews are working in your area. You are not getting clarity, you are getting frustration. Day 2 is when people start feeling lied to, even though nobody actually lied. The estimates were always guesses. The crews are doing what they can, but emotionally it feels like you were told something that did not happen and now you don't know what to believe. The better approach is assuming the power is out for 3 days and being happily surprised if it comes back sooner. That is not pessimism. That is just setting your expectations in a way that does not leave you disappointed every 6 hours. If you planned for 72 hours, you have food handled, you have water handled, you have warmth handled, and you are not checking your phone every 20 minutes hoping for an update that changes your situation. You are just living in the gap, and that's fine. Mistake number 9 is the social pressure thing. This one is subtle, but it is real. If your neighbors have power and you do not, it feels worse. If everyone in your street is out, there's a weird camaraderie. You're all in it together. But if it's just your building or just your block, you start wondering if you're missing something. Should you have reported it differently? Should you have called someone? Is there something wrong with your unit specifically? People make the mistake of comparing their situation to others and feeling like they are failing somehow. Your coworker's power came back after 6 hours, but yours has been out for 2 days. That does not mean you did anything wrong. It just means the grid is complicated and outages do not follow fair rules. The other version of this is that people start treating the blackout like a competition. They post on social media about how prepared they are. They make jokes about their neighbors panicking. They perform competence. That's fine if it makes you feel better, but it doesn't actually help. And if you are the person who was not prepared and you are seeing those posts, it just makes you feel worse. Preparedness is not about being the person who did it better than everyone else.
It is about being calm and functional when things are not normal. That is it. Mistake number 10 is forgetting what actually matters on day 3. By day 3, you are running low on something. Maybe it is patience, maybe it is phone battery, maybe it is clean clothes or the last of the bread or your ability to pretend this is fine. The key is knowing what you actually need versus what you are just tired of not having. You need water,
You need some kind of food. You need to stay warm enough that you are safe. You need a way to communicate if something actually goes wrong. Everything else is comfort. And comfort matters, but it is not the same as a need. If you are on day 3 and you are out of coffee, that is annoying. It is not dangerous. If you are out of water, that is a different problem. People make the mistake of treating every discomfort like a crisis. The power has been out for 60 hours and they are acting like they are in a survival situation because they cannot take a hot shower. It is uncomfortable. It is not an emergency. The other thing that happens on day 3 is that people start getting sick of each other. If you are stuck in one room with your family or your roommates, everyone is tired and cold and bored and patience is thin. That is normal. It does not mean anything is wrong with you. It just means that humans are not great at being uncomfortable together for long stretches. Knowing that is coming does not fix it, but it helps you not take it personally. Here's the thing about blackouts. They are not that rare. Depending on where you live, you will probably deal with at least one multi-day outage every few years. Winter storms, summer heat waves, hurricanes, accidents, maintenance gone wrong. There are dozens of reasons. And every time, people go through the same cycle: surprise, adaptation, discomfort, frustration, and relief when it is over. Then they forget about it until the next time. The difference between people who handle it well and people who spiral is not luck. It's having a basic plan before it happens. You do not need a bunker. You do not need thousands of dollars of gear. You just need to think through the 72-hour version of your life without power and figure out where the gaps are. If you do not have a way to cook, that is a gap. If you do not have water stored and you are on a well, that is a gap. If you do not have a flashlight with fresh batteries, that is a gap. Most people can close those gaps for under $100 and an afternoon of thinking. It's not complicated, it's just deliberate. Preparedness is not about the big dramatic event. It's about the boring Tuesday when the power goes out and you have to figure out dinner and you are tired and you did not plan for this. It's about not being the person who is sitting in the dark on day 2, wondering why this feels so much harder than it should. Most people are capable of handling a blackout. They just don't realize how much of their daily routine depends on electricity until it's gone. And then they are trying to solve problems in real time instead of having already thought them through. You can be the person who is calm. You can be the person who has a plan. You can be the person who gets to day 3 and you are uncomfortable, but you are fine. That is not because you are tougher or smarter. It's because you spent an hour thinking about it before it mattered. The next time the lights go out, you will know what to do. You will not be guessing. You will not be panicking. You will just be working the plan. And that's the whole point. Stay safe,